Okay, so I'm back here now, and I've gotten a little inscription on here about white light containing all visible colors and then refracting through a prism. So I added some black inside of here, and I just put some light blue outside. And then I'm going to refract these out here and try to mix these colors originally from yellow, red, and blue to make that happen. So just like before, let's see, where's my pencil? I'm going to go ahead and make 6 equal divisions on this end. So I've got 11 inches. So we'll start by going at 5.5. Then we'll look at 5.5, dividing that into thirds, we can get inch and a half. Yeah, we can get about 1 3/4 inches out of each one. 1, 2, 3. Do the same thing down here, about 1 3/4 inches. There we go. Okay, as before, I'm going to go ahead and draw a good line here to kind of give myself a border for these colors. So make for a good illustrative poster for when you are doing color theory with your students, but further, with it being the opposite of pigment or physical color, can also help to show the relationship between light and color. Skip that one, I see. Okay, so then this one goes to that one. Cool. And I got an eraser here today, huh? Okay. Your poster's going to be smaller than mine anyway, so really your goal here is to just try to get a high fidelity color that matches between these and these here, mixing from your primaries only, or your process colors. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and wipe that out because I'm not digging that. Got a little bit of gesso here, just for my mistakes. But your poster would be smaller, and so if you wanted to mix up a whole bunch of color and then just apply that out here, you could. But it's never a bad idea for you to practice mixing color. So here's a piece of paper. Okay. Hello, blue. I mean, Jersey. All right, so magenta was easy, right? Remember that one? We just need 2 coats of the magenta to mix up, hopefully closer to a red. We're also going to go back and probably deal with deepening that with some either tempera or some watercolor, either way. But if you are using acrylic, go super thin like this. Tempera is the same way. You can go nice and thin after you've mixed up your pigmentation, like watercolor. And then the thinner you lay it, the faster it's going to be dry, so you can get that second coat on there. And you want it nice and smooth too. So smooth out your brush strokes and get used to this idea of pulling through subject matter so that you can control a pencil rather control a paintbrush. Well, that's one of the most difficult parts about painting, in my estimation, is using the tools. If it were like drawing, to me it would be much easier, but it's not. See, I kind of got out a little bit there, but what's helpful about that is that this is already black, so I don't have to worry too much about that. So I'm going to let that dry now. Time to shoot for that orange. So for this one, I'm just going to mix up a good deal of orange since I know I'm going to need it. And it's going to be hard for me to mix it up repeatedly. So I'm going to start with a lot of yellow. And then I'm just going to start mixing together like this until I get the quality of orange I'm looking for. Just like in the color wheel video, if you do this and then bring it down and take a look at it, compare it, this one's lighter, so it's more of a yellow orange. You don't want a yellow orange. Magenta seems to make the best orange, which is why we use magenta as a process color. Red is going to be a more common thing to see on a color wheel, more commonly used with kids. Kids have a tendency to call magenta pink, so do adults. So if you drop it in there and it appears to disappear, then you've got it right. I definitely don't have it right yet. It's still way too light, so I'm just going to build it up slowly with the darker color. I don't want to push it too far. Once I got it to the right hue, then I'm going to stay there. That looks good to me. So hopefully I'll have enough now to do this entire swatch. And so like the other one, I'm going to lay it out nice and clean. Unload my brush. I don't want to waste any of this paint, so I have a finite amount. You see how I go at an angle, just like anything, like when you're drawing. Think about your handedness. If you're a right-hand dominant person, you want to think about the natural arc of your hand. If you're a left-hand dominant person, you're going to have a different arc of your hand that's more natural to you, and it's going to help you paint and draw more clearly if you have the right sort of like hand and body approach to it. Almost there, and I got a little left. So it's going to work out almost perfectly. The thing is, I really don't like any of those splotchy, spotty areas. So my color next to this is yellow. I'm a little tempted to try to get over that line a little bit, but I know I'm not going to be able to cover that orange up with yellow, so I'm going to just be more careful there. That one little spot that looks light, it's bothering me. There we go. So it's about color fidelity and about illustrating the properties of light with color. Okay, next one's nice and easy. So clean out our brush, dry it out. This one's got to be yellow. Typically, yellow only needs a singular coat. It's a super bright color, so you know, what would you see besides the yellow? You'd see maybe the white of the paper, and even white's not bright enough to say, hey, look, you missed this one little spot here with your yellow. So a lot of times I'll lay down yellow and think, oh, it's totally covered, until I lay another color over the top, and then I see, oh, these are the spots where yellow hasn't actually hit the paper yet. So you got to be a little more cautious with that. In printmaking, we always like to start with the color yellow to get a good, warm build underneath other colors, and it creates a really dynamic sort of textural and color mixing situation without near as much work, because you're using an additive method of color based on the principles of subtractive method, which we'll talk about more later. Excuse me. So I feel like I got my warms done at this point. I'm going to go ahead and test out my magenta. It's not quite there. Looks like we're ready for that green now. And again, I'm going to have to do like a test on this one. And so we're going to go with a lot of yellow. This black is dry, so I'm not worried about it. Little tiny amount of blue. And we're going to work it in until we like the green that we get. Should probably match the green that you have on your, like within your prism. This would be more of like a yellow green if we're on a color wheel, however. A little bit more blue. It's kind of a nice green. Very springy, alive. Kind of almost hitting that perfect secondary green, which I think I'm digging. If you're not sure what it's going to look like, a good way to do it is to put it on a scrap piece of paper and spread it with your finger, and that's going to show you like exactly what that color chroma is like. And if you drop one next to it like that, you'll see whoops, you'll see a big difference. Like the one's going to be darker than the other. That's why you always want to stretch it out. So you will do this scientific color poster this week to illustrate the effects of light on color and how all of the colors are contained within white light. You will also do the color wheel project this week, which is more about pigmentation. It's more about how colors bounce off of certain substances or subjects, and then those substances or subjects or that pigmentation absorbs some of the visible spectrum and reflects the rest of it, which is really like the whole reason that we have color in the first place, because we can see, because that light illuminates the physical properties of things. I'm gonna have to go around on this one. You still getting that in there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. See, this is one of those situations where the natural pulling motion of my right arm is better this way, and it would have made a really messy line had I tried it some other way. You could use tape if you wanted to. I can tell you that with this poster board, it's probably not going to be an amazing thing for you to use tape. I just like to do this. It's good practice for you to freehand when you're painting anyway, so. Boom. Ah. Next up, it's kind of how we teach all the time. Okay. Roy G. Biv, huh? So, one thing that should kind of be happening in here is there should be a more clear cyan in between the green and the indigo, okay? Or blue violet is what I prefer to call it. So I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna bring some of that cyan back out, or some of that like lighter blue. I'm gonna take just a touch of white and I'm going to create a little border right here. I'm just going to brush it over several times until I have the right intensity. And I probably would not have been able to successfully do this without letting the prior layers dry first, which is what's awesome about acrylic. If you're not using acrylic, it's okay. Go ahead and just do this with whatever you've got. A little bit of blue in there is basically what we're needing. Just to break that up and to illustrate the full spectrum of visible colors. My wife watches me do this anymore. She's going to have me painting the house over this quarantine. Okay, now I'm going to bring that blue violet back. We're just going to drop a little bit of magenta in there, like we did before. Smooth it out. Magenta up there, so it's getting overpowered by that blue. There we go. Now we're sitting there pretty well. And time for just a touch of blue, and we'll call this good here. We'll get down to the violets. So I think how I want to deal with this is first do the violet. Then I'll go back and I'll do the indigo, the blue violet. And then the cyan. That way I can leave the white of the paper cyan. That blue will lay way better as such. So since we know that magenta and blue are going to create violet, we're just going to go ahead and mix straight on the palette, or straight on the paper rather.